Hello students, you might have gone through earlier lecture videos and now it is now time to go into the more details about the methods of communication. As we have seen that the communication has emerged in a very multiple ways in the very uh, advantageous and useful technological innovations, and in this way the entire communication concept has been transformed from what is known today. Now now the days are coming when we are seeing that there are the research and technological innovation has contributed not to any other field but to communication media, and that we have already seen in our earlier video lectures. Now, in more detail and to come and understand at the basic of the communication concept, the way the communication takes place, that we need to just go through. So in what way the communication takes place? So as a student of communication, we must understand that the methods of communication, there are two ways the communication mostly takes place. When we are using, suppose I am using right now my oral communication, I am speaking with you through this video or through the classroom teaching. Those who are speaking very confidently using the spoken form of words is said to be using words. It is oral type of communication. At the same time, we are texting on a WhatsApp, on a text messages. At the same time, we are drafting email, sending email, WhatsApp message, or any other media, or we are simply writing a letter to your distant relatives, to your friend, or to an office is also called the use of words but in the form of writing. So it is called as written communication. There is another way by which we can also communicate, that is in tune with the oral communication, and it is by coming face to face communication. Means the two person, the message sender and the message receptor or receiver, are face to face to each other to understand the message. So we have this type of message that we see here. So it is a face to face type of communication. Then next communication that we see is that of non-verbal communication. As we have seen, it's a non-verbal communication when we are communicating through the eyes, our eyes movement, our fingers, our body language that we use to speak with someone else. So it is very interesting to understand that rather than communicating through verbal communication or use of words, human beings or we mostly communicate by our non-verbal means. Our message is communicated moreover by non-verbal means of communication rather than verbal communication. In the sense, we must understand, if we have to concentrate to develop the reading communication skills, we must see that we are using our non-verbal means. Near about 35% of our communication text plus with the use of verbal communication, and 65% of communication text plus with non-verbal communication. So if 65% more than enough, more than, see, 65, it is non-verbal communication. So anyone who wishes to develop the communication skill needs to develop and work on non-verbal means of communication. He must either refine his body language, use his body language, postures, gestures, expressions, facial expressions, dress and grooming, space and proxemics, visual communication, and silence. Even silence also speaks. So these are non-verbal means of communication, and that we just need to concentrate to develop the communication skills. So of course, with the combination of verbal and non-verbal means of communication, we can certainly achieve a very good communication skill. Let us go through the first method of communication, that is oral communication. We speak, our sound is audible, and the listener who uses his listening capacities to understand and interpret the message through the use of his linguistic ability, his knowledge about language, and then interprets such communication, and it is definitely gone down into him. It stands for the decoding process, and this decoding takes place at the message receiver's end. So it is oral communication that we see. So when we study this definition of the oral communication is as such: communication which conveys message from the sender to the listener in the form of words. Means the words are used to convey a message by the sender to the listener. So this is the definition of the oral communication. It is the spoken form of the communication. What are the forms of oral communication? The oral communication is in the form of lectures, group discussion, private discussion. If we are gossiping, we are talking, we are having a telephonic talk, or we are meeting somewhere, friends, our colleagues, our relatives, and we are communicating with them. If we come across your boyfriends and girlfriends or your classmates, so you just go and have a discussion, have a talk. It is called as a gathering informally. At the same time, the oral form of communication also takes place in the training, seminars, workshops, conferences, where mostly the communication that takes place is in the form of oral communication. The speaker delivers his knowledgeable, say, session to the audience, an audience who patiently listens to the resources provided by the speaker. The knowledge, the training, all the resources that are provided through the spoken form to the listeners. Such a training seminars are a very good platform for oral communication. Oral communication also takes place in the form of interviews. If the candidate comes across over the table to the panel members serially ask the questions to the candidate to assess his ability. At the same time, candidate answers the questions. The candidate gives his responses to the panel members. It is also a form of communication. So interviews is a give and take. of the messages, and it is in the oral form. So interviews are also a type of communication. Then at the same time, we have making presentations. If you are told to make the presentations in the classroom or presentations in the form of a video lecture, so you will go through the making presentation skills, and you will adopt such a strategy to make the presentation. You will speak, you will prepare, and how to speak, where to speak, where to explain, how to explain. So you will adopt the strategy and make it relevant to the listeners. So this is also one of the type of communication. Then, if the oral communication is useful in all this respect, the business organization definitely to conduct their routine business activities and daily work, they resort to communicate with each other. There is proper coordination, there is proper planning, the strategy to implement, the communication is most crucial to them. So, communication that passes from one channel to the another channel is called as communication. So, open door policy, complaints and grievances, other areas that we see are in the form of communication. So, to for the business organization to function very efficiently, the communication oil, lubricant must function most efficiently. So it is a kind of a to speed up the organization. This lubricant, communication lubricant, is very much essential, and that is what communication is very important in all this respect. So, when we study this, we had to see in what way the organization can use and take the benefits of this oral communication to the maximum extent. And for this, definitely, we just need to go through the things. So, in what way this communication is more helpful? So, what are the advantages that the business organization can take into account so that they may make it more efficient for the organization? So, let us go through the advantages of and what are the reasons for which the oral communication needs to be utilized. Of course, it saves the time. Oral communication is quite speedy. It it takes very much less time to communicate with all the members of the say meeting, all the members of the staff, employee who are engaged in the work. So our message gets transferred in a very short time. Definitely, it saves the time. Instead of taking written communication, oral communication is quite fast. So, whatever time is taken is to utter and to speak the message. Then there is, of course, the facility of the immediate feedback. Since oral communication is quick, the responder can immediately give the response to the speaker. So, the feedback is immediately generated. So, feedback is immediate, it saves the time also. As fast as the communication, so fast as the feedback, so fast will be the feedback. So, as a student, you must see that it's a give and take, it's a gossip, it's a discussion, it's a group discussion, it's a classroom discussion. So, there is immediate provision for the feedback. Of course, it's a formal in nature. Formal in nature. See, there is a speaker Oral communication needs to take into account how to say, what to say, in what manner to say, use the polite language in formal condition, and in informal condition use the informal language. So the rules of how to speak and whom to speak in what condition, so all these rules comes into play when we are having the oral communication, and that is why this oral communication is quite formal. At the same time, oral communication is very much useful for confidential matters. As we have seen that oral communication, we can just see, we have often seen around us that when we have to speak confidential matters, we put our lips to someone's ears. दुसऱ्याच्या कानाला आपण ओठांनी काहीतरी हळू आवाजात आपण सांगतो. It is kind of a confidential matter that we just goes close and speak with them. It is very much useful in confidential matters. So, oral communication is useful in this respect too. At the same time, oral communication do have some kind of persuasive skills. We can persuade someone through interaction. We can give some basic ideas, some good say messages, and we can give them a good feedback. At the same time, it is persuasive. We can convince, we can win over, we can deliver, we can give the positive thoughts, and we can also we can transform the negative thoughts of the other person. So this is persuasive by nature. So oral communication is persuasive. At the same time, as we have seen, oral communication doesn't require any money. We don't have to pay for it. Oral communication just needs the physical energy to speak and to utter. So it is almost free of cost. It is quite economical. So there is no expenses that we can incur in case of oral communication. So it is quite say economical. At the same time, another advantage that we have to see is that of effective method. As we have seen that this communication is an effective tool to coordinate, to speak, to conduct the routine activities, policy decisions. We can immediately contact with the other person to whom it is required. It takes, if it is communicated confidently, persuasively, if we all use the advantages of oral communication, definitely it turns out to be very effective method. So oral communication is effective in this sense. At the same time, through oral communication, our relations get developed. We have seen that oral communication and discussion definitely brings us closer. We can share and understand each other through oral communication. So oral communication is very much say useful to develop such a type of relations. So when we have this communication, we can have this as a very good advantage of the communication. The next important topic is to know the disadvantages of oral communication. If we have to use to the maximum extent the advantages of oral communication, but at the same time we have to minimize the intensity of the disadvantages of the oral communication, so that we can use oral communication to the maximum say extent. So when we are having the disadvantages, we can look the way to overcome these disadvantages. So back reference is not possible. Of course, once it is said, it is said. It lasts for just moments. The time taken for the spoken form of the message was only the existence of this message, unless it is recorded on a mobile phone or tape recorder or recorder, voice recorder. So back reference is not possible in case of oral communication. If we have to prove this communication in front of the court of law, or we have to use this as a legal record, such a legal record cannot be proved unless it is recorded, unless the voice call or telephone call is recorded. It cannot be proved in the court of law. So it will not be considered that this person had said this. No, we cannot accept that, because there is nowhere a record. Unless it is recorded, unless it is voice verified, then and thereafter we can accept that. See, so we have to see this is one of the disadvantage of the oral communication. Not useful for long discussion. Of course, oral communication is useful, but it will be useful only when the short messages are there. Okay, if we are having a long discussion, if we are having a technical issue that we have to use, but we don't have enough say explanation, such a technical issues may find it very difficult. At the same time, when difficult or technical subjects are there, it should be curtailed to a minimum F, so that if we have minimum discussion on a complex issue, it will be better appreciated. But when it is a complex issue and long issue, definitely it is very difficult for the listener to concentrate to the long, say, lecture. So it is not going to be useful in the sense. At the same time, we have seen that oral communication is easily forgotten, because we just listen, and the heard material, definitely we cannot keep it in memory for long duration. So it is easily forgotten. So when it comes to the proper understanding of the oral message, definitely unless it is recorded, it is lost in just moments. At the same time, oral communication lacks accountability. To whom the message has been originated, who has originated that particular message. Unless it is known, we don't have such a accountability. Or a person who said such and such things, he may lie to the next moment. No, unless there is an eyewitness. So this lack of accountability that we have seen in grapevine communication, it takes in the form of oral communication, but there is a rumor. It is called as a rumor, grapevine communication. So it lacks the accountability. Of course, it is misunderstood when it is not communicated properly. It is easily forgotten. It is absolutely misunderstood by the main. So we have this as one of the disadvantage of this communication. Next is distortion or diversion of subject matter. Through oral communication, as we have seen, so many professors have distorted the message or changed his subject in the discourse of his lecture. So he has gone leaving his subject behind and gone on a particular discussion on a particular topic. So there is a diversion of the subject matter. So it is one of the disadvantage of this communication, that is oral communication. So in this way we have studied the method, that is oral communication. In our next lecture we will go through the written communication. Till then, read and take a snapshot of these slides during the play of this video, and do subscribe my channel so that you will get the alerts. Thank you.